Alrighty, it looks like a majority of everybody has joined, so we'll go ahead and get started with today's session. Thank you guys so much for being here. Welcome to Ask a Pro with FieldPulse. What we're going to do today is a webinar series where industry experts share their knowledge and experience on topics that can improve your business operations. A lot of the questions that we're going to be answering today were submitted by you, but feel free to submit any questions in the Q&A chat as well, and we'll get to those as we move through the session today. Our guest today is Lucas Wilson with Signpost. Super happy to have you here. Thank you so much for being here. For those of you who have attended in the past, you know that a lot of these are virtual, so we're really happy to have Lucas here in the office with us.
In person.
Yep, in the flesh. So today what Luke is going to be doing is sharing his expertise on mastering client communication in home services. So we'll go ahead and get started just to, take advantage of our time here today. So the first thing I wanted to ask you is, how does actionable communication support building customer satisfaction as well as customer retention?
I think you have to fundamentally understand that when people are reaching out to you in the home service world, they're frustrated.
Absolutely.
Right? At the core of what they're doing. They wouldn't be reaching out to us if they didn't have a need to be solved.
100%.
And we fundamentally drop the ball in communication every time because we treat them as if they understand what's going on, right?
Sure.
And they don't. So at the core of both gaining a new customer, right? Or in retaining those other customers that you've worked so hard to get in the first place, that constant communication or just the way you communicate really is everything, right? And it ultimately leads to that success.
Absolutely, I agree. High touch is probably the best way to go, especially when people kind of don't have a clear path on where to go.
Right.
I think that's a great answer. Awesome. So what strategies do you feel that companies should use to ensure not only timely responses to existing customers, but also interacting with your potentially new customers as well?
I think you have to be different than me. You have to fundamentally, you take someone like myself who thinks, oh, the phone, they will call, right? And then you're like, actually, you need to go ahead and step back a little bit. They're going to reach out to you on Facebook Messenger. They're going to reach out to you on a tool like Angie or Thumbtack.
Sure.
They're going to SMS you. They're going to give you a web form lead. They're going to there's multiple mediums, right, that they can reach out to you. And they are expecting an instant response. I know I'm that person, right?
Yeah.
Like I am fundamentally, if my living in the great Republic of Texas here, if my AC is out, and I message you and you don't respond, I'm probably not going to go with my guy. I'm going to get a different guy to come fix my AC. So I think what we have to remember is you need to meet today's prospects and customers where they are, right? You have to, where they're comfortable messaging, it's not up to us. It's not, I grew up in a small business and we were a retail automobile dealer. My grandpa used to always swear that the best place to advertise was the back of the sports section because that's where people looked at it, right?
Yeah.
No one reads the sports section. It's digital now, right?
Yeah,
so we all have to remember that our customers have changed.
Sure.
Some of them still have remained back here and you've got to get them all, right? So you have to go where they are.
And I think something that you touched on, which is really important, is your ability to adapt, which I think is, in a leader, a business owner, is something that you have to be willing to do, especially as the trades change, right?
Correct.
Great answer. So moving on to the next question, what are some of the biggest challenges that you feel technicians face when trying to communicate with customers?
I'll tell you hands down. So I mentioned that I grew up in the retail automobile business. Trying to explain to someone what was technically wrong with their vehicle frustrated the crap out of me, right? Because I know I am an ASE certified mechanic. I understand what's wrong with your car. And I actually failed at this a lot when I was younger. I would get the pushback that I was talking down to them all the time because I was just like, look, here's what's wrong. This is this, this is this, this is this, this is what you want to do. Are we going to do it or not? Right? Let's move on. I need to fix it. Got another car to go fix. I think our technicians in the home service world, they're skilled craftsmen, right? If you really look at it, doesn't matter if it's HVAC, plumbing, electrical, pest control, whatever it is, they are industry experts, right? And when you're communicating to that potential prospect or a seasoned customer, that customer is not the industry expert,
right?
Or they would have fixed it themselves, right? Like if they were right?
Yeah,
they're not. So I think being able to, and I used to call it dumbing it down. It's not what you're wanting. Being able to explain it in terms that others can understand, and then being patient enough to seek to understand, right? A lot of times that pushback is not frustration or resistance, it's I don't understand, and nobody wants to feel stupid.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, but you do feel stupid because you're like, I don't know. Is he telling me the truth? Is he not? We live in an era where you don't really trust. Right, I'm googling everything to see if this is the problem. So I think as a technician, the biggest challenge is patience, seek to understand, slow down, and maybe always assume positive intent, which is not easy to do when you've got a queue worth of 5 other jobs you're trying to get to, and you got to get this one done. So that's, from my opinion, that's a big challenge as a technician.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think you made a really good point too. It's not necessarily dumbing it down. It's just putting into, a group of verbiage that is easier for the normal everyday person who is not, really savvy with this kind of stuff to understand. Absolutely.
Or ask a question.
For sure.
Right? Sometimes we assume. And we think, oh, this must be what they don't understand. May not even be close, right? Just ask a question. And I think that's really hard to do when you're trying to just get stuff done.
Yeah,
right? You're
absolutely.
trying to close out the ticket, move on.
Especially like you said, if you have, 5, 6 jobs in the queue, it's kind of like, you get a little impatient. Yes. But I totally agree. And I think that's such a good way to scope it is, hey, ask a question, assume positive intent is, I think, the best takeaway on that answer for sure. What tools can owners use to train and support their technicians to communicate effectively with customers? I know this is kind of a follow-up to the previous question, but I think more on ownership side, admin side, what do you think these owners can do to give their technicians best practices?
I think it's two-pronged. I think you have a two-pronged approach to this. You have to be proactive as a business owner. And I am, being a president and CEO, I am the owner of our business. I have to also be proactive. Actually, I would really think my business is very similar to those that I support, right, in the home service world. I have to have the right tools and technology, because there are going to be some soft and hard skills I fundamentally cannot teach, right? I keep going back to the trades of like electrical, plumbing, and HVAC. There are electricians out there who I just do not want interacting with people.
Sure.
Right? But they are fundamentally the most valuable employee I could possibly have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So there's going to be empowering them with the correct tool when you understand they have the gap. They have that skill set gap. I've tried to teach it to you.
Yeah.
I can't. Sure. So I'm going to give you a tool that's going to help with the quoting. It's going to help with the explanation. It's going to help that's one way. The other way, I challenge this a lot. Get everyone on your team sales training.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube. You can Google it. LinkedIn has free courses on it. Like, a technician will tell you, I don't need to be a salesperson. You actually are.
Yeah.
You fundamentally are a salesperson.
Exactly.
For my brand, you're a salesperson. For my service, you're a salesperson. For our industry.
Yeah.
So I believe sales training, because if you think at the core of what sales is, it's question asking, discovery process, providing a solution that fits, and then asking for the ability to move forward.
Absolutely.
Right? So I believe those are the two. I think you can do a lot by teaching core sales skills, and maybe you don't expect them to sell, but you are expecting them to do the discovery, and you are expecting them to be able to eloquently lay out a solution. And then I really ultimately believe you got to be with the right tool. You have to have the right tool that will offset those skill set gaps.
100%. And it's a gap we see a lot, doing our onboarding and trainings, as well as I think they come, from that perspective of, I'm not a salesman. In reality, you're kind of the face of the company, right? You're the one who's expected to have those one-on-one conversations with customers. Really good point. I appreciate that. So I know we've talked about actionable communication. How about proactive communication? How does that proactive communication help prevent common issues from escalating into customer dissatisfaction?
So I am a huge fan of technology when it comes to proactive communication. And I'm gonna go back to the retail car business, because it's where I cut my teeth and kind of learned a lot of my skills. One of my favorite jobs was as a sales manager or a finance manager, because I felt like I was helping people get the best deals, affordable vehicle, all those pieces. We brought out a program that was a digital way of presenting add-on and financing terms and all this stuff. I used to never write those things out. I would just have a conversation about it, right? Yeah. It cut our delivery time in half, and our customer satisfaction scores went through the roof, because people were able to digest it, read it, understand it. They knew what their options were, and they felt empowered to make the decisions, right? I hated the tool at the first because I had to put more work into it. But when I saw the data of I'm like, man, it's actually making my life easier. And we were a family-owned business, so our name was on the sign. So I cared when I went to the barber shop and somebody was like, I got screwed down there at your place, right? Like that is, I never wanted to have that conversation, and I end up having it all the time, right? And so when I would look at like being able to proactively say, here is what's wrong. I actually just had someone come out and do some air conditioning work on my home, and they presented everything on an iPad, right? So everything was like, hey, look, here's what's wrong. Here's what you got. Here's what I suggest. And I was able to kind of read it and then understand what questions I needed to ask.
Right.
I really think providing that education through a tool is probably the best way to do it, because I would say fundamentally we all struggle with valuable and actionable communication, and the tool, whatever tool you choose is going to make you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I couldn't agree anymore. And kind of moving into the next question, I know this kind of goes hand in hand, but what are some of the most effective customer communication methods / styles that you have seen as you manage a business? And I think kind of to follow up on that, how do you determine as the business owner what is best for your business in regards to that method of communication?
So I have people laugh at me all the time. I have what I call the Columbo method. And so way older than you, because I have a lot of white in my facial hair, right? Columbo was a detective, and you can YouTube it because he's on YouTube. And he would always be the dumbest guy in the room, right? And he's always like, I don't understand, help me understand. And he already knew, and he had it figured out, but he was using that questioning to get you where you need to go. Where we push our team internally, we push our team towards a strong discovery process. You've got to have that Columbo method. We're not the smartest person in the room. And our human egos get in the way sometimes, right? Because honestly, we feel like we are the smartest person in the room because we know what we do and we do one thing really well, and that's what we, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So the customer communication method that we really like to push is the entire seek to understand, discovery driven question, because then you get to the core of what the true problem is. And so like when I'm making a decision on because my world is a lot of a sales focus. And so you have the challenger sale, you have all these different pieces that they'll tell you, hey, this sales methodology works perfectly. At the end of the day, I give our team one core piece. You have to be customer centric and customer focused. We actually have 4 core values that we make all of our customer interaction decisions around those 4 core values. Did we nail like what we're trying to accomplish and who we are and what we stand for?
Sure.
But the other piece is making sure that we're always seeking to understand, that we understand what questions being asked are the pain point. Same with, if somebody, I would figure in the trades world or home service world, there's a lot of different solutions. I got to really understand, like, what's your budget? Understand what are you most comfortable with? What are you struggling with? What's the true problem here? So I really think that the true proper way of communications that seek to understand and a discovery focused way.
And that's definitely kind of been a theme I've noticed in all of your answers is like, just ask the question.
That's true.
Because I do think it helps, to your point, everybody's better at their jobs when they have a better understanding of what the task is that's in front of them. So I think that's really important, is to understand pain points and just ask the question. That's a really great point.
I think we're guilty as humans of always trying to make a statement.
Right. Absolutely.
And so it's a problem in a relationship. It's a problem with kids and parents. It's a problem with everything. And I'm guilty of it in my world. I'm like, look, I've got to get this done. Here's my statement.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Now, I am impacted because our team will push back and say, why don't you ask me a question? Right. Because that's the culture we have. But yes, I think to second what you said, like, you've just seek to understand.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. What role does follow-up communication play in retaining customers and generating repeat business? I love this question.
Everything. It's everything.
Yeah.
Think of where we are in the world. Everything is a commodity.
Yeah.
Right. So many folks that are watching this webinar right now are paying for leads. And they pay for that one lead and they don't follow up after it, then you got to pay for the lead again.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I push our team heavily back towards the small town retail automobile dealership where my grandfather followed up with everybody and went to church with everybody and saw everybody at the morning diner and sponsored the school softball and baseball and all that. But he knew, like, he needed those people to remember that he was there for them in that community. Follow up in our community is a little bigger now, right? It's not the same as that little small town community, but the follow up lets people know that they're more than just another tick in the book, right? Or another invoice that you sent out.
Right.
And I would also say this, we've proven in our business, follow up gets us business.
Yeah.
Because it's right. Like, it gets you referrals because, you know what? He followed up. He was great. He cared about how things worked. And I would also say the proper follow up, like, follow up on a phone call. Nobody ever checks their voicemails, exercising futility, right? Follow up on a text and they're like, okay, I've got this. Meaningful. So, but follow up to me, it's what our team struggles with the most. Like we struggle with
it's hard.
It's hard, right? Because a lot of times too, I actually just had this discussion with our customer facing sales team the other day. Why do you call this guy every day at 7 a.m. and he never answers? Call him at 2, call him at 3, call him at 5, call him at 7 at night.
Yeah, like, switch up your message.
Find out when he answers. Because that person told me, I follow up all the time. Well, you do, but you don't.
Differently, like you have to, you know, make it adaptable to that customer as well. And I do think, to your point, it's really important, because everything is a commodity, to make people feel seen, and not make them feel like you said, another tick in the book or another number. I think that's will really separate your business from people who, you know, practice their business in the other way. So really, really good point. And to kind of wrap up questions here, how does an FSM platform like FieldPulse support everything that you have previously mentioned as we've gone through these questions today?
Well, part of the reason why I'm excited to be here is because I'm passionate about that FSM piece, because if you push yourself outside of your comfort zone, then you have now created a differentiator for your business. Right? So you have a better way of quoting. You have a more comfortable way of the customer understanding what the solution is. You have a better option for me to pay. You have a better option for me to be followed up with, right? Like the days of having your customers on an Excel file or a Google sheet, right? Like it just doesn't, if you're really trying to grow, and I can't say it doesn't work, because it does work. It absolutely works.
For a time.
For a time. And for like, if you're one guy that has 8 customers, great. Right? But I'm passionate about this. The technology is great. We all use technology on cell phones. We all use technology in our own personal life. Use technology to make a more efficient business. Right? And I will say, from a business owner's standpoint, having all of your customer interactions in one spot, so you can track where you're letting people down, or where you need to double down on improving a process, or what you can fundamentally, if you use an FSM, you can see where you're dropping the ball in the process. And I just think that you're a skilled tradesman. You are a perfectionist in your craft. Let people see it by using the proper tools to make sure you're efficient.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I think, you know, to your point, I think it's almost intimidating to a lot of these people to make that large switch when you're using Google Sheets or, you know, even just pen and paper, right? And we see a lot of that here with FieldPulse. But I think you made a great point. You can track how your business is doing a lot more efficiently, which, you know, in turn makes you a lot better as a businessman, business owner, a tradesman, everything. Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. Thank you so much. Great answers to all of your questions. Where can we find you?
So I am 2 places in the world. One is signpost.com. Very proud of what we're building there. Very proud of our culture and the way we're able to impact the business owner, right? So that'd be one place to find me. I'm also very active in the SMB community and ecosystem on LinkedIn. So I like to make a lot of posts on LinkedIn around things that are impacting us in the SMB ecosystem. So would love to connect with as many people as possible there.
Awesome. Everybody heard it here. Add Luke on LinkedIn.
There you go.
And this recording of this Ask a Pro session will be linked in the Help Center within FieldPulse's Help Center as well. So if you'd like to reference it or share it to anybody, feel free to do so. It should be posted sometime over the next couple of days. And we did do a $50 gift card giveaway. So drum roll, Morgan Stewart, you are the winner of that gift card. I'll reach out to you after this session just to give you all of the credentials and stuff like that. So congrats. And Luke, thank you so much for being here again today. It was such a pleasure. And again, so glad to see you in the flesh. It's so different than what we typically do. So sincerely, we appreciate it. Thank you all for being here as well. Feel free to check out Signpost via LinkedIn or the FieldPulse website as well if you're interested. And we will see you in the next session.